After a ghostly journey across a half-dozen states, a Learjet plunges 45,000 feet and crashes in South Dakota, killing golfing great Payne Stewart. To help us understand this strange aviation tragedy, the chairman of the National Transportation Safety Board, Jim Hall. We'll also hear from Payne Stewart's friends and fellow players, including Ben Crenshaw, who's the captain of this year's victorious U.S. Ryder Cup team, and '92 U.S. Open winner Tom Kite. Plus, Lee Jansen, who narrowly beat Stewart in the '98 U.S. Open. His book about his 5-year affair with the late Princess Diana has kicked up a royal rumpus. We'll hear from James Hewitt tonight, just ahead on Larry King Live. Welcome to Larry King Live. I want to go first to Kevin Bakke, who is the captain, is out at the crash site in Mina, South Dakota, where today's tragedy occurred. Captain Bakke, can you tell us how many people were killed in that crash? Do we know for certain?
No, we don't. I don't have that information. It was not made available to me.
Now, what time did you arrive at the crash scene?
The crash took place shortly after noon, right after 12 noon. I had officers responding immediately. I myself waited for Governor Janklow, and I picked him up at the airport and brought him out to the crash scene about 1 o'clock.
And what did you see when you got to that crash scene, sir?
Well, there's obviously a very devastating, dramatic airplane crash that violently impacted with the ground. There's a crater. It's a severe crater, probably the size of a large utility vehicle you could place inside the crater, like a Suburban.
Are there any big pieces of the aircraft left, or is it essentially disintegrated by crashing into the ground?
It's pretty much disintegrated. It's embedded into the ground. At what depth, I don't know. I'm sure the investigators will determine that.
Did you talk to any eyewitnesses to the crash?
Well, actually, myself and 3 other officers witnessed the aircraft crash from our office in Aberdeen. I initially received information that there was an aircraft entering South Dakota airspace, that no one in the cabin was responsive. I called flight services in another jurisdiction and asked them if they were tracking such an aircraft, and they determined they were. I asked them to give me an exact location, and they gave me a location about 75 miles southwest of Aberdeen, flying in a northwesterly direction. Myself and the other officers left the building and went outside, and the aircraft was west of our office, flying in a northwesterly direction. And we observed the 2 other jet aircraft trailing it, which were determined to be F-16. We watched the aircraft just briefly. 2 of my officers got binoculars out and were tracking it with the binoculars. And one of them indicated that it looked like he thought he saw a parachute, but then he immediately said, no, it's not, it's the aircraft coming down. Then we could visually see the aircraft come down, and we responded immediately. We didn't wait for the aircraft to hit the ground. We just responded to the area we thought that it would came down, and 3 of my officers arrived shortly thereafter.
Jim Hall, do we have any idea what may have caused this crash?
Well, we have sent a team of our board's investigators to the scene. Investigator in charge, Robert Benson, and our vice chairman, Robert Francis. We have some of our best aviation experts, as well as forensic and family support personnel there to assist in the investigation of the tragedy.
Jim, do we have an updated figure on the number of casualties? Are we certain how many people were on board?
We are still working with the appropriate authorities in South Dakota and obtaining information from where the flight left in Orlando, Florida, to try and identify exactly how many individuals were aboard. That number is still uncertain as we speak.
Carl Rochelle, what time did that plane leave Florida, and what was its intended destination?
Greta, it took off about 9:19 this morning. It was headed for Dallas, Fort Worth, DFW, the airport there, and just about 25 minutes after takeoff, the controllers cleared it to climb to 39,000 feet. That was the last communication with this aircraft. It did not turn on course heading for Dallas. It continued in a northwesterly direction and climbed up to, the FAA tells me, 46,000 feet, 46,000 the max, and continued straight ahead on that course until it ran out of fuel. And this is indicative. You might note, Greta, that coming back up to Washington, I was down in Norfolk earlier today. I came back on a Learjet, and we shot some pictures and talked with the crew on the way down. It is standard procedure in one of these aircraft, once you clear the airport traffic area and begin your climb out, to engage the autopilot and let the autopilot control the aircraft. And that's one of the reasons you would have seen the path of the airplane continue on very much in a straight line as it made its way on there. Now, I understand the chase planes that came alongside looked and said that the people inside appeared to be slumped over, incapacitated. That raises the big question: exactly what happened, and when did it happen, and why did it happen so suddenly? Because I've been through the altitude chamber myself as part of being a pilot in 2 or 3 different occasions, courtesy of the Air Force and the Navy. I have been put in an altitude chamber which looks like a rather small metal locker with a few windows in it, and pumped up, and then had the pressure released on it so that I was in the situation where you'd be without pressure. And it is an interesting situation. Pilots are taught to deal with that.
Bruce Jenner joins us from L.A. Bruce, there was reports that the plane was as high as 46,000 feet. What do you make of that altitude?
Well, first of all, obviously the autopilot was left on, and because it stayed in the right direction, it was heading and tracking in one direction. But you know, the plane really isn't designed to go that high. I think the ceiling on those is about 45,000. And what happens is the plane is in a climb. It keeps climbing and climbing and climbing because it hasn't been told to do anything else. But eventually it gets so high that the engines don't perform very well at that level, and it can't. So it kind of just porpoises its way in trying to hold that altitude because the autopilot's trying to do his job. But obviously something incapacitated everybody on this aircraft very quickly. You know, there's been a lot of reports, could have been toxic fumes inside the cabin, and I talked to a bunch of Learjet pilots today and mechanics, and they said that's just about impossible. It had to do something with the pressurization in the aircraft, and most likely it was a rapid depressurization of the aircraft, and either they couldn't get to their oxygen masks fast enough, something happened there. At 40,000 feet, supposedly you're only, you know, be able to stay sane for about 15 seconds, so you don't have much time to work there. And
but do you
if
have
the
as long
oxygen
as,
wasn't set up properly.
Bruce, do you have as long as 15 seconds to react when there's decompression, or can it occur rather suddenly?
Oh, 15 seconds to react. The depressurization of the aircraft, which, you know, you have to admit, the Lear 35, I heard this was a 1976 Lear 35, probably one of the most stable aircraft in all of Learjet's stable. They're a great aircraft. I talk to the mechanics all the time. They're a wonderful aircraft. This doesn't happen very often. You know, my mechanics never even knew ever of it happening. What can do and cause something like that? Because there's backup systems after backup systems. Probably the weakest link on the aircraft could have been if a window blew out or there was a major structural damage where you had massive decompression of the aircraft. And then the pilots, you never know. Sometimes pilots get a little lax when it comes. Certainly, we don't know, so I'm not blaming these pilots, but sometimes pilots will get a little lax when it comes to oxygen and not testing the oxygen system before they go out, because virtually you never use it. I mean, I know pilots who have had an entire career and never had to use the oxygen mask. So something happened there, and it was just terrible, terrible tragedy.
All right, we're going to take a break. Thanks to Bruce Jenner, Captain Kevin Bakke, Carl Rochelle, and Jim Hall. We'll be right back with 3 friends and pro golfers, 3 friends of Payne Stewart. Stay with us.
From Tracy, Aaron, and Chelsea, we appreciate the heartfelt love and kindness shown by our friends and loved ones in our loss of Payne. We know he is with the Lord, and in that we take comfort. Please keep the Stewart family in your prayers, along with the families of Robert Fraley, Van Arden, and the 2 pilots.
Larry King Live is brought to you by Touchstone Energy. Touchstone Energy, bringing you the power of human connections.
Years before America's electric cooperatives forged the nationwide alliance, Touchstone Energy, neighbors built their own electric utility to power lives and communities. Now Touchstone Energy cooperatives serve millions of homes and businesses. Customers large and small get state-of-the-art technology and affordable service. From the one-room schoolhouse to the communities and businesses of tomorrow, trust Touchstone Energy, the power of human connections. We are America's electric cooperatives.
I will not forget that I have long-term responsibilities.
I won't let panic triumph over reason. I'll stay the course when everyone else says the sky is falling.
The stock market moves up and down, sometimes dramatically. In my 30-year career, the stock market's gone up over 10-fold. But in that same time period, it's had 14 drops of 10% or more. Stay the course. That's what I've always done.
For more information on Fidelity funds with a history of solid performance, visit Fidelity.com.
Deutsche Bank, redefining financial services. Global reach. The insights to create new opportunities. The power to support them with an integrated global network. Local strength and expertise to transform opportunities into remarkable results. Global reach is leading to results. Deutsche Bank.
Fight osteoporosis with Citracal, the calcium supplement clinically proven to help stop bone loss. Do what's right for your bones. Take Citracal.
I'm Greta Van Susteren sitting in tonight for Larry King. Larry will be back tomorrow. Two-time U.S. Open winner Payne Stewart died today in a plane crash. With his traditional knickers and tam o' shanter hat, the 42-year-old Stewart was one of the most recognizable players on the Pro Tour. With us tonight, three of his fellow golfers. In Orlando, Lee Jansen, who met with Stewart's widow, Tracy, today. And in Austin, former U.S. Open winner Tom Kite. Also in Austin, Ben Crenshaw, who is captain of this year's victorious Ryder Cup team. Let me go first to you, Lee. Must have been a terrible scene today at the home of Payne Stewart. Tell us about it.
Yes, quite a few people came by about the time we got there, and we were just there a short while. We just really came by to give them a hug, tell them we love them, and let them know that we're with them, and whatever they need that we can possibly do for them, that we're here.
Ben, what's your reaction to today's tragic news?
Well, Greta, golf has lost a great champion. Payne Stewart had so many friends. He had a wonderful career. He was doing the things that he wanted to achieve in this game. Had 3 major championships, and like you said earlier, he played for me this year. I was a captain for him on the Ryder Cup team, and he was a great, great part of that team. We looked up to him for support because he was one of the elder players on our team. But we're shocked. We are shocked.
Ben, what made him such a great golfer?
Well, if anyone ever saw Payne Stewart hit a golf ball, it was the most beautiful, effortless motion. He had a golf swing that was beautifully fluid, and it served him all around the globe. He played well in so many different places. He met his wife in Australia. In his formative years, he played many, many years in Australia, but that swing could work anywhere. We'll miss watching that effortless swing.
Tom, when was the last time you spoke or talked to Payne?
I was up at the Ryder Cup up at the Brookline with Ben and his team, and so I had a chance to spend some time with him, and the last time I saw him was actually on the practice tee before he teed off on Sunday's round when he was playing his great match with Colin Montgomery.
Tom, why the knickers?
Well, Payne was a showman. He understood that the business that we are in is a professional sport, but it's also entertainment, and Payne liked being the show and having everybody bring their attention directed right to him. He was always loud and boisterous and fun to be around, and showed his emotions. As Ben said, he wore his emotions right on his sleeve, and you knew exactly where you stood with him at all times, and he loved that. He loved the interplay with the gallery. He loved the interplay with his fellow competitors, and I think that was just one of the ways that he used to express himself.
Lee, why was Payne going to Dallas?
It was my understanding that he was going to look at a golf course site before he went to Houston.
And why would he be looking at a golf course site?
Possible, you know, people want to put golf courses in for developments or design golf courses, and you know, Payne Stewart has done one before. I know in Missouri. I don't know if he's done more than one, but you know, I played in an event with him in Louisville a little bit more than a month ago, and from there I went to Canada and he went to Kentucky to look at a golf course site, and somebody probably had asked him if he'd be interested, so they went to look at the land, see if the land is good. You know, what kind of routing can you come up with? You know, does the golf course look like a thing you could do a great job with? You know, a lot of us, we play so many different golf courses around the world that golf course design is also, you know, sometimes gets in our blood, and we want to, you know, take part in that too.
Ben, I understand that Payne Stewart had a religious transformation in the past year or two. What was that?
Well, he did. Payne accomplished a lot of things, but I think it was due to a few things. It was, first of all, Tracy, his wonderful wife, who really, you know, to do anything in golf, really it must be a tandem, it must be a team, and Tracy breathed so much support into Payne. She saw him win 2 major championships earlier on in his career, and he reached a little bit of a lull, but certainly that and a commitment to religion in these last few years meant a great deal to him. We could see that transformation. He was a very, very happy man doing what he loved to do for his occupation, and he was firing on all cylinders.
Ben, Lee, Tom, thank you very much for joining us, and obviously a very tough night for you and for the family of Payne Stewart. We'll be right back, and we're going to switch gears. We're going to be talking about a new book that's out on Princess Diana. Stay with us.
I can't describe it. Everything just bubbles inside you, and all of a sudden it's over and you did it. You know, I did it again.
Payne Stewart is the 1999 U.S. Open champion. Oh, my. What a clutch putt.
It processes endless information, handles multiple tasks at once, and runs at top speed all day. It's your brain, upgraded by Ginkgoba ME, the new mental energy supplement, clinically proven to help increase mental processing speed and reduce mental fatigue. Ginkgoba ME safely increases circulation to the brain, so you can think faster, longer, better. Use new Ginkgoba ME and upgrade your brain.
Today, enough coal to power 1 out of every 9 homes in the country travels on the BNSF Railway. Music by Mozart, electricity by the people, and the coal trains of BNSF.
It's a dog-eat-dog world, with every dog looking for his day. So it's all work your butt off and watch your tail. Now you know how to do that, don't you? Learn new tricks. Rico is in your corner with the digital solutions that make your workplace work.
Communications has reached a new point, a point where every person has the power to connect with anyone from anywhere, at any time, in new ways, better ways. A point where every business has the power to connect its people and customers more closely. A single point where you can email, fax, plan your day, transforming the way we communicate. That point is here at mail.com.
We're now joined by James Hewitt. His new book about his affair with Princess Diana, titled Love and War, is being released tomorrow. He's also here with his attorney, Michael Coleman. Where do I begin? I guess, James, the first question is, when did you meet Diana?
I'd just like to say it's very difficult to follow your lead story. I mean, my story seems to pale into insignificance when you're faced with tragedy like that. Thank you for having me anyway. In 1986, I met Diana.
How did you meet her?
I met her in Buckingham Palace.
And was there any sort of reaction from her? I mean, what happened when you first met her?
We just fell into conversation. It was a coincidental meeting, and that's how it happened.
How soon after did it develop into somewhat of a relationship?
Well, I was then employed or asked to teach her to ride, and it started as a close friendship and developed into what the world knows about in certain sound bites, but rather inaccurately hitherto, and that's why I've decided to set the story straight and give the people a chance to read the truth about me, as well as, I mean, the book is about me and my life and people and events in it that have had a gargantuan effect. To say it's another Diana book is inaccurate. It's about my life story and the events in my first 40 years that have actually been covered inaccurately hitherto.
When you talk about your book, which I've read, and you talk about your relationship with Diana, this was all done without the knowledge of the Queen, is that correct, and Prince Charles?
What was done without
the
knowledge?
Relationship that you have with Diana.
Well, no. If you read the book, I touch on the point that there were many people who knew about the situation, and that's really why it became public knowledge.
What was so attractive to you about Diana?
Well, I think she's remembered by most people as being very beautiful. She was very charismatic, and she was genuinely compassionate and caring for those who were less fortunate than her and most other people. She did care.
What did she tell you about her marriage with Prince Charles?
Well, not a... It's very difficult for me to just answer that in a single soundbite, and I think I would urge people to read what I have to say about the whole story in a balanced and proper way.
But what was it? I mean, why did her marriage fall apart, and why did Diana fall in love with you? What was it about that?
I think there has been so much written that is not accurate.
But just tell me, from your own heart and mind, what was it? Why did her marriage fall apart?
Golly, well, marriages do fall apart. I mean, I'm not going to apportion blame here or suggest whose fault it was, but it did, and the world knows about it.
Now, at some point, Princess Diana gave an interview on British television, and she talked about being let down. Was she talking about being let down by you?
I don't think so, not necessarily. She told the world how much she adored me and loved me, and she went on to say that she was let down, but that has been interpreted in very many ways and inaccurate ways, and I think what I have written in my book about having to go to Germany and being posted to Germany by my regiment and following my career could have been seen as a letdown in the eyes of someone who didn't want you to go there.
Okay, so your relationship began in 1986. When did it end?
93.
What caused it to end?
Well, it has been basically, I mean, the situation was known about then in a very wide sphere, and it was just very difficult and, well, it was impossible to sustain the status quo at that point. And it was, yes, I mean, we were hounded basically by the British tabloid press and have continued to be from that moment on, and still after she was tragically killed. And that's one reason, another reason I've written the book, to stop the speculation and the tittle-tattle and lies and half-truths that are constantly dredged up by the British tabloid press, certainly, and to put the record straight once and for all and to move on, close the chapter.
All right, we're going to take a break. We'll be right back with more from James Hewitt on his new book about his relationship with Princess Diana. Stay with us.
He's worked almost 40 years. She's worked almost 40 years. And during that time, they've gone on walks together instead of cruises, and shared secrets together instead of champagne, just so that someday they could retire and be together all the time. At Cigna, we care about the retirement dreams of over 5 million people. After all, there are dreams too. Cigna, a business of caring.
Our bandwidth. The point isn't just bandwidth, sir. It's band height, band depth, flexible, do anything, rubber bandwidth. That's why you gotta talk to Williams Communications, sir. They have what our customers are screaming for. Williams does data, voice, video, digital IP. I think taste. Can you imagine what that would be like, sir? Put your tongue right on the screen of the computer. We'll download an entire braised duck. They taste the broad Bandicoot.
At Oldie, we see every client as unique. Take Jackson Drake, architect and former customer of a full-cost broker. Jackson switched to Oldie for our Premium Plus Money Market series to receive its competitive yield as well as free check writing. Plus, Oldie's advice helped him design a carefully balanced portfolio. Best of all, Oldie's advice comes with dramatic commission savings over full-cost firms. Spend your time focused on life. Call Oldie, America's full-service discount broker.
Welcome back to Larry King Live. I'm Greta Van Susteren, sitting in for Larry King, and our guest is James Hewitt and his lawyer Michael Coleman, and it is about the book Love and War, written by James Hewitt. James, you have 64 love letters, or letters, at least I characterize them as love letters, from Princess Diana that are not in this book. Where are those letters?
Actually, I have more than 64. I've got about 150 letters, private correspondence, and the 64 that you're referring to were made public when they were stolen from my house in Devon by the editor of a tabloid paper in Britain. Those letters were since recovered by me at a great expense and heartache. It almost took a year to do so. And if it hadn't have been for the fact that Michael took the job on, the outcome of retrieving my private property might have been quite different. But I don't know exactly where those letters are. They're in the safe hands of Michael Coleman.
Michael, who owns those letters from Princess Diana that were sent to James Hewitt, and why aren't they in the book?
The legal position is the letters belong to James. The reason they're not in the book is that James, for nearly 10 years, kept them private. They're between him and the woman he loved. And the only reason they came into the public eye is because his home was burgled, the letters were stolen, and legal action ensued to recover them. And having recovered them, they're remaining private, and James wishes to keep them private.
James, you mentioned in a book that you weren't the only man with whom the princess had an affair. There were other men, were there not?
I don't mention that in the book, no.
Was there a bodyguard who was killed on a motorcycle?
I mentioned a situation which is in the public domain, and I've tried to explain the situation around that.
And
but I know where you're coming from, and it was reported, again, inaccurately and salaciously by the British tabloid press that I had written extensively about other lovers. That is absolutely not true.
Is it fair to say that you feel like you're a victim of the tabloid press in England? I mean, there have been many statements, I guess, describing you as a cad, is the term that was used. Are you a victim?
I have been at the wrong end of their focus, really, yes. I mean, most of what has appeared in the papers has been, in the very mildest form, inaccurate, and in many cases, absolute lies. I mean, invented stories, and that incensed me.
Right.
The mere fact that my letters were stolen incensed me and led to me having to write this book in order to achieve some kind of rebalance.
Let me cut you off for 1 second because we got to take a break. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
Tonight, kids fighting, part of a so-called fight club. Find out why it's been banned. CNN Newsstand. Tonight, 10 Eastern on CNN.
Who needs a bank that specializes in business? Call us. You'll be in good company. Centennial Bank. Open for business.
Even with its impressive power, remarkable handling, and legendary capability, Jeep Grand Cherokee can still be leased for just $359 a month. Maybe that's why everyone's going out of their way to get a look at it. The $359 a month Grand Cherokee lease. Check one out at your Jeep dealer.
Sports Tonight with Fred and Vince, 11 Eastern on CNN.
Welcome back. I'm Greta Van Susteren, sitting in for Larry King. Larry will be back tomorrow night. And we continue our discussion about Princess Diana and James Hewitt with royal biographer Hugo Vickers and Robert Lacey, a longtime chronicler of the House of Windsor. They both join us from London. And in Washington, Kitty Kelly, best-selling author of The Royals. Let me go first to you, Kitty, in Washington. What's your reaction to this new book, Love and War, by James Hewitt?
Greta, I read the book over the weekend. The William Morris Agency FedExed me a copy. And I think that Major Hewitt sounds very much victimized in the book. He sounds like most of his girlfriends have cashed him out to the tabloids to tell his story about his relationship with Princess Diana. I read in detail about the tawdry business with the tabloid and stealing the letters. Really what came across in that book, there was certainly nothing new. There was nothing that I didn't know. It seemed like the two best women that ever happened to Major Hewitt were his mother and the Princess of Wales. And right now, he sounds rather tentative, and I would be too, coming out with a book like this when the princess isn't here. This is his second book on his affair with the princess. We know that the princess, by her own admission, was very much in love with Major Hewitt. But she's gone now, and it just seems enough. Let's let her be in peace.
Robert Lacey, what is your reaction to the new book, Love and War, by James Hewitt?
I felt more favorably about it than Kitty did. I hadn't read his other book, which I don't think you can actually call his other book. It was ghost-written for him. And I was intrigued as I read the book, as I was intrigued just now watching him on television, to think this is the man who was loved by the most glamorous and popular woman in the world. The one man who, that she does seem to have loved. And I must say I'm rather puzzled. I wish he could have been more articulate as he spoke just then, and I'd have liked a fuller picture, I think, of Diana from the book. But I think it's a kind picture of Diana, and I also think that he is entitled to have his say, and I also think that it's historically valuable in that Diana was a historically significant figure. Here was the man who loved her, that she chose for 4 or 5 years, the man who made her happy, and I find it very interesting to see what he has to say.
Hugo, your reaction to the book, and also I'm curious what the reaction in Britain is to the book.
Well, I'm disappointed by my reaction to the book, I have to say, because the first part of it seems to be very boastful about the way she loved him. I mean, fair enough, she did, but I find it, as an Englishman, I just find it uncomfortable reading about somebody boasting of this love publicly, and indeed, he does actually quote little extracts from these famous letters. There's also a lot about, you know, sort of gung-ho stuff in the Gulf War and so forth, which is quite interesting. Actually, the bit that I found the most interesting and where my sympathy was with him was in the latter part of the story, when he was set up by the Mirror. I mean, that just seemed to me grotesque. So in that respect, I accept that he's a victim. I think he has a very great problem because he was involved in this affair, which, as far as we can see, he did his best to keep private for a long time. Now it's become public, but he hasn't helped his own cause, I think, by making it more public in a number of ways.
All right, we're going to take a break. We'll be right back with more on the new book about Princess Diana's relationship with James Hewitt. Stay with us.
We who fight for human rights.
A country for love.
This is not just another emergency.
A lot of what I've learned may well be obsolete because the circumstances have changed, but maybe some principles don't change, and that is, for any society to grow, it's got to have a certain cohesiveness, a certain social contract that, right, we're going to make this and we've got to make it together. So starting from scratch, we've got to get our people educated first. Then we've got to have people with money, capital, technology to come in and invest. I mean, if you look around Singapore, you won't see any more slums because we set out to make sure that people don't have to live in slums, which means investments in roads, infrastructure, sewerage, telephones, electricity, housing, schools, hospitals. If you don't have civil order, discipline, and the ability to reward people in accordance with the work that they've put in and the contribution they've made to society, you are not going to get progress.
This Voices of the Millennium has been brought to you by United Airlines. Rising is a daily commitment to make flying more civilized. United is rising.
Looking at air travel with a new sense of possibility. Rising is imagination.
Looking for the finest, most convenient prescription services available, all roads lead here. Transferring your prescription to Walgreens is easy. Just call us and we'll do the rest.
People really like SUVs.
They're big, they're roomy.
They're perfect for the outdoors.
You know what would be a great promotion? Rent a Ford Explorer for the price of our Taurus if you climb Mount Everest.
Let's just do the Explorer for the price of our Taurus.
That's a great deal. I would have to agree.
Yeah.
It's a good deal, good
Sums
car.
Very nice.
At 25, I wanted to make vice president. At 35, I wanted to make my first million. At At 45, I wanted to make enough to buy the company. Now all I want is to make it around this track 0.2 of a second faster.
At Lincoln Financial Group, we provide clear, understandable, customized solutions to help you manage, protect, and enjoy the work of a lifetime. Lincoln Financial Group, clear solutions in a complex world.
Welcome back to Larry King Live. I'm Greta Van Susteren, sitting in for Larry, who'll be back tomorrow night. And now we're joined by Christopher Hitchens, who is a columnist for Vanity Fair. Christopher, you've never been short on words in describing Diana. What's your reaction to the book?
Well, short of words is what poor Major Hewitt seems to be. I mean, I was sad to see how tongue-tied he was. I mean, he's written actually quite an interesting and rather a touching book. He's also had a very bruising experience doing it, but he had so many points of interest to make in the book, and he couldn't bring himself to promote them. I suppose having a lawyer sitting next to you all the time isn't the position you're normally in as a major in Her Majesty's Household Cavalry or Lifeguards or whatever it is.
But what were you looking for? What did you want?
Look, I mean, in the book he says that she told him, it'll be all right because Charles is going to be killed in an accident. He'll be dead very soon. We can be together. My astrologer has assured me that in death there is hope. Now that's sort of worth knowing if you like that kind of thing. And also if you don't like that kind of thing, it's ironic in the sense that she foresaw, wrongly, her husband being killed in an accident, freeing her, and it was the other way around, as we all know. She talks about it a lot in the book, and it's based on the occult and superstition. He can't bring himself to say what's interesting about his own volume. He can't bring himself to say how they met. He can't bring himself to say, not to you, I mean, or this evening, or he couldn't, perhaps his lawyer wouldn't let him say how intense it all was. And even when you asked him, isn't it true that the book contains revelations about other men, which it does, mainly other bodyguards, he acted as if it was an illegitimate question, whereas he confirms from her lips that any man would do, anyone in her entourage would do, rather than the hideous, empty, unhappy, miserable life that the royal family visits on anyone who comes anywhere near its frigid, horrible orbit. And what the book is a wonderful account of how the House of Windsor poisons and chills everything it touches.
Robert, do you agree that the House of Windsor poisons and chills everything?
No, I don't agree, but I do agree with some of the things that Christopher's saying. It is astonishing the way the Major couldn't get across some of these details. I mean, one of the things that struck me was his account of how he would go down to Highgrove for weekends with Diana and play with the boys, and the servants would serve them as a couple and so on. And then they would go away, and Camilla and Charles would take over the place and be looked after the same servants. And presumably, well, we know the boys were not around then. There is a weird schizophrenia here, and I suppose I have a great regret that Captain Hewitt, when he was with Diana, didn't probe her more on the psychology of all of this. And here we have a captain who is, in fact, he tells us in the book, personally selected by the Queen and by Lord Mountbatten to serve in the Lifeguards.
All right, we're going to take a break. We'll be right back with more on this book. Stay with us.
Communications has reached a new point, a point where every person has the power to connect with anyone from anywhere at any time in new ways, better ways. A point where every business has the power to connect its people and customers more closely. A single point where you can email, fax, plan your day, transforming the way we communicate. That point is here at mail.com.
There are over 800,000 job openings
for internet specialists right now.
3 million more in the next 5 years. By the time I'm 18.
By the time I'm 18, over 1 billion jobs will require internet skills.
Are you ready? Are you ready?
Virtually all internet traffic travels across the systems of one company, the same one sponsoring thousands of networking academies. Cisco Systems, empowering the internet generation.
We ready?
Are you?
The computers become a stage for the entire planet.
Better get a good seat. Hayworth, furniture for what's next. Fight osteoporosis with Citracal, the calcium supplement clinically proven to help stop bone loss. Do what's right for your bones. Take Citracal.
You gotta stop right there. Good girl. Today, I'm giving my daughter her first driving lesson. I'm Howard Simpson, auto insurance expert for Liberty Mutual. Teenagers are more likely to have an accident than anyone else. That's why I volunteer to teach kids road safety long before they get their license. Let's go, let's go. Whether it's teaching kids in high school or training professionals, we do whatever it takes to make roads safer.
At Liberty Mutual, we have hundreds of experts helping you live a safer, more secure life. It's insurance in action.
You're never too old to learn.
Welcome back to Larry King Live. Kitty, to borrow a term that's used in the British press, is James Hewitt a cad?
I don't know James Hewitt personally, so I really can't answer that.
Well,
but
for writing this book, does that make him a cad?
it makes him subject to conduct that's unbecoming an officer and a gentleman. The man once said that what he knows best are women and horses. I would submit that he probably knows horses better than women. Most women would be uncomfortable with what he has done.
Hugo, what's the reaction, do you think, by the royal family to this book?
Oh, I don't think that they'll bother with it very much, quite frankly. But I do hope that her two boys aren't upset by it, because one of the arguments I would have thought for not writing this book, if you were Major Hewitt, was to upset these two boys, with which, as Christopher Hitchens said, you know, Robert said, you know, he had a certain amount to do with when they were very little. The Princess of Wales, as you know, did ask him to burn the letters at one point. That's actually that is quoted in the book, and he did not do that. That perhaps tells you again something about what he thinks about the relationship finally. I mean, it would have been perhaps expecting too much that he might have destroyed them. Perhaps they're the only thing he's got left.
Robert, you know, I've read an awful lot about the allegation that some people in the press have called him a cad over in Britain. How do you compare James Hewitt to Camilla Parker Bowles, or isn't there a comparison?
Well, actually, is there a comparison? I myself don't feel that, I can't feel as strongly as Hugo about this. I think nobody seems to have behaved well in this situation at all. I mean, after all, Diana started the revelation of what was going on in her private life. Prince Charles was on television confessing adultery. Again, I can't really agree with Hugo about the effect on the boys. When you've got parents who are bearing all on television, I think the onus of responsibility on Hewitt is fairly small. When it comes to Camilla, in fact, I suppose in this sorry catalogue, she is the one person who has not written a book and who has not given interviews, although we discover recently that even Camilla Parker Bowles had an ongoing telephone relationship with a tabloid editor and was keen to get her point of view across.
Christopher, I mean, has James Hewitt been targeted more by the tabloid than Camilla Parker Bowles in Britain, or are they both similarly situated?
I would have no idea about that, but I do have an opinion about the cad question.
Okay, go ahead with the cad question.
Or the rat question, as it's sometimes called.
That may be an American term.
It seems to me he was been the most restrained of the lot. He, not I think the brightest of my fellow countrymen, Captain Hewitt, I've been corrected, I shouldn't have called him Major. Took a while to work out that the Andrew Morton book had actually been written by Princess Diana. It took a while to realize that everyone had had their sort of share of publicity and their side of the story told through some tabloid medium or another, except himself. He was the only one who was still being picked over as a carcass by the remaining tabloid reporters. And the book he's actually written, and I think he's probably written one more book than he's ever read, rather like Camilla Parker Bowles, is a model, with the exception of one, I think, rather childish joke on page 41, a model of discretion and restraint. And it's perfectly absurd, fatuous, actually, for Hugo Vickers to say that she asked him to burn the letters. The context in which the letters were asked to be burned was in which they might have been captured during the Gulf War. It wasn't a plea that you destroy all record of our relationship, as he must know if he's read the book.
I have read the book, actually.
It seems to me that
I have read the book.
That he's perfectly entitled, actually would have been entitled to quote from or reproduce the letters, which, after all, are his property. The copyright resides in the author, who's dead.
All right, Hugo, we're going to go to break. Hugo, when we come back, I'll let you respond, so stay with us. We'll be right back.
Janine?
Yeah?
I've got to go mail some packages. I'll be back in a minute.
Okay.
Janine, anything happen while I was gone?
With eStamp internet postage, you can buy and print postage whenever you want. eStamp, postage when you need it.
Online shoppers everywhere trust their bargain hunting to GTE. Thousands of builders trust their reputations to Boise Cascade. Millions of people trust their entertainment to the MGM Grand. When it comes to your organization's network, who are you going to trust? Cabletron Systems, your e-business communication specialist.
With our most advanced four-wheel drive system ever, QuadraDrive, Jeep Grand Cherokee goes where you could encounter anything. So we tested for anything.
Welcome back to Larry King Live. Hugo, before we went to break, I cut you off. You wanted to add something.
Yes, I mean, I think it's, you know, the question of the burning of the letters, what she actually says, what she didn't want them to fall into wrong hands. Actually, I think, well, first of all, they're already in wrong hands, and secondly, they're now in everybody's hands possible that wants to read these things. Christopher Hitchens accuses me of not having read the book. If he wants to look up the quote on page 175, he will actually find a letter quoted. May I also state that actually copyright does go on existing in the hands of the person who wrote it for some years after they died. I think it's at least 75 years now. So copyright doesn't just die when somebody dies, when the author dies.
All right, while Christopher looks that up, let me go to Kitty. Kitty, what's missing in this book from your perspective? You've read a lot of biographies. What's missing?
A lot of things. First of all, he quotes snippets from the letters, but he really has been ham-tied. He can't quote very much from the letters at all. So you don't get the feeling of the passion and the loneliness that she supposedly felt and that she was communicating to him. It's an interesting legal question, you know, about letters. If you write me a letter, Greta, you own the words, I own the piece of paper. But I cannot quote from that letter unless you give me permission. And the estate of the Princess of Wales certainly was not going to give Captain Hewitt permission. And so he had to make a calculated risk. Should I go ahead and do it and let them sue or not? It's an interesting legal question.
Robert, is this, would you call this a kiss and tell, this book?
No, I wouldn't call it kiss and tell, if only for the reason that Kitty has mentioned, that there isn't the first-hand material. We now know, for example, that Andrew Morton's book was actually based on Diana's own words. There's this curious mixture all the time of the captain trying to keep up his reputation as an officer and a gentleman and betray confidences at the same time. I think I'm left with a rather nasty taste. The sort of hypocrisy in this whole thing, going back to the way in which the royal family seem, I mean, one of the most interesting things, I think, in the book is the way in which, really, it's pretty clear the royal family knew what was going on, and Prince Charles knew what was going on, and the police forces knew what was going on, and turned a blind eye and actually tried to cover the whole thing up themselves.
Hugo, do you think they knew about this and just turned the other way?
They certainly knew about it, yes, and for what reason they would turn the other way is not quite clear. I guess that probably to try to protect the situation of the marriage and all parties involved. But I must take issue with Robert. There's quite a lot of kissing in this book, and there's quite a lot of telling, actually.
Christopher?
Not enough of either, I would say.
No, I agree with you, Christopher.
Much too little of both, and very disappointing in that respect. But look, the truth of the matter is, I think it's pretty clear from much of what's implied and a certain amount of what's stated that Prince Charles wanted something to happen. He wanted, so to speak, a certificate or permission for his own long-term adultery, and was delighted that anyone, preferably a brother officer if it could be arranged, because discretion is supposed to come along with the brother officer, could be, so to speak, furnished or permitted to take care of business.
And what he says in the books...
It shows that, as ever, there's always been a permissive society for the ruling class in the United Kingdom, and they only complain when this sort of bad behavior extends to the lower orders and the tabloids.
And Christopher, what James Hewitt seems to suggest in his books, he says that Princess Diana pretty much said the marriage is over from day one.
Absolutely. She actually, well, he's not the only person that she told. She told many of her intimates that she thought it was dead in the water before she walked up the aisle. I speak as the only person to have described that marriage as a phony on the day it took place, but it seemed very obvious to me at the time that everything about it was frigid, arranged, manipulated by one of the most unpleasant ruling houses Europe has ever seen.
Robert, was this marriage just a manufactured marriage for royal reasons?
Well, Christopher is very party-pree on this. He actually wasn't the only person on the day. I remember Jan Morris, the British journalist, also made this very same point, and it's a perfectly valid point. But I have to say, the majority of people in Britain and all around the world celebrated that day. It was a joyful day, and I think when
except for the bride, and presumably
well,
the
she
groom.
said that later. She said that
no,
later.
she said it in real time to people who remember her saying it.
Well,
no.
Yes, she did. It was the thing. It was a cold and phony, manipulated business. She was a sacrificial lamb. Look, everyone in and around that family is expected to be a human sacrifice to an imagined public opinion that is supposed to want a monarchical system. In fact, all these propositions collapse on examination. People don't want a monarchical system.
I've spoken to people.
They don't demand a human sacrifice of the members of the family.
And let me cut you right off there, because that's the last word we have, and it's all the time we have tonight for Larry King Live. Up next, Newsstand, Stephen Fraser and Natalie Allen with more on that terrible tragedy today, that airplane that went down carrying Stewart Payne. Stay with us.
Insurance in action.
I also hate bananas. Weeknights, the most responsive and immediate news magazine on television. Newsstand, weeknights, 10 Eastern, on CNN.
Ta-da!
It takes a revolution to make a solution.
I was looking for a solution in an air and noise pollution. Yesterday she came around and said, let's start a revolution. I said, I don't wanna go, I wanna hang around at home. Let's go!
The NFL is back. Sports Illustrated and NFL Films want to help you grab on to the ultimate football package. The official NFL Films video of your favorite team and the limited edition NFL Team Sports Watch, both free with your paid subscription. Plus, when you use your credit card, SI's Super Bowl Millennium Football free. Call now. Get 54 issues for only $1.47 an issue. Save 50% off the cover price. The ultimate football package, free from Sports Illustrated and nowhere else.
What will the credit card of the future look like?
The future?
Think of the possibilities.
The world's changing.
We'll need a card that can change with it.
What will a credit card look like that has an introductory rate of 0% and then a fixed rate as low as 9.99%?
Definitely not like anything in my wallet.
That has no annual fee and gives you the flexibility to pay over time.
So, I'll be able to extend the payments on my new lunar vacation?
What will a credit card look like that provides guaranteed protection from online fraud?
I don't know.
But I think it has my name on it.
A card with a built-in smart chip to give it ever-evolving capabilities.
A credit card?
With a brain?
That makes other credit cards seem so...
20th century.
Actually, it'll look like this. Introducing Blue from American Express, a whole new kind of credit card.
We really do live in an interesting time.
To apply, call 1-800-BLUE-600.
I have seen the future.
And it fits in my wallet.